Hello, Peche viewers. I'm Lisa with Peche Media, and I've been covering the file of the rapid growth in the real estate market. And so I figured who better to ask than local real estate. So I have the pleasure here with Paul Lemelin, and we're going to get what he's seeing out on the market. So thanks for having me, Paul.
My pleasure. Pleasure to be here.
And so tell me, what have you seen in the past year, I guess since 2020, 21?
Well, it's been a crazy year. I mean, for everybody. My clients, everyone is having a very different life this year. Our family, it's just across the board. It's very different. I think as far as the real estate market goes, the two main differences would be inventory and lifestyle. So on one hand, because of the restrictions mainly last spring, so a year ago, usually in any given year, many of the listings in 1 year, they come out often in the spring. So spring is the busiest time. So typically between March and May is when you'll see the largest number of listings come onto the market. And yet last year it was flat. So there was virtually nothing coming on the market. There were some virtual listings, with only virtual, 3D tours and that kind of thing. Any offers usually were conditional on a showing that was yet to, like a date to be determined. So that was a flat inventory production for last spring, and that sort of set the stage for a reduced inventory throughout the year. And then you couple that with the fact that a lot of buyers who didn't buy their home in the fall, they're still looking throughout the year. And in terms of lifestyle, well, people are noticing that they can work more and more from home. So I think you've probably heard there has been somewhat of an exodus outside the city to go to where life is better. I mean, partly just to have a different place to go to, a secondary home, and some people realize that they want to relocate permanently in the country. So I'd say lifestyle, inventory due to restrictions are the two main. So this whole past year has just been reduced inventory and an increased demand, and that's what causes that unbelievable market and difficulty to find a home if you're a buyer.
So is that what you think has driven the prices up?
Undoubtedly. So scarcity is always going to be a driver for perceived value and for prices going up in virtually any market. Any supply and demand market where there's scarcity, the prices go up. So real estate's no exception. And it's, there's a distinction to be made between actual value, or sometimes people have rebuild value, like if they're getting insurance or if they're getting remortgaged, versus comparative market value. In real estate, we deal with comparative market value. And sometimes in a strong buyer's market, that value can be, much closer to like an appraisal value. And in fact, sometimes the appraisal value is higher. But in this kind of market where it's a strong seller's market, the comparative market value is much higher.
So the market is, there's very little places out there. And do you have any idea of what percentage-ish that now people are paying more? Because, when I look at what went for sale in the spring is now jumped a whole lot.
Yeah, significantly. It's tough to give an exact, singular, just one number, because first of all, there's no exact science in real estate. Even when I'm assessing homes, I generally provide a 20K range in value, and I suggest an optimal, listing price that we can test. In the Village is where you see the highest increase. In Wakefield, the demand is very high. Inventory tends to be low. It's not so often that a house comes on the market. When it does, it goes way over asking. Whereas somewhere like Macham in La Peche has great value historically for buying a property, yet not the best return on a resale. So the values tend to be a bit closer to the municipal value in a regular market. In this market, everything is way up. So you could see 20, 25%. I've seen 30% sometimes. So, that's the range. I would say, outside the Village and the more rural areas, easily 15, maybe 20, and then inside the Village, 25, 20, 25, pretty easily.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, this is creating a real struggle for those that are trying to rent.
Yeah.
Are you seeing I guess my question, who are buying these properties? Do you think, is it mostly secondary homes or people like the exodus of the city?
A mix. I think probably most of them, there's a majority of people who are buying permanent homes, I'd say. And then secondary homes and investments would be the smallest category. And there are always fewer investors than the rest of them. But most people are looking to relocate because they're realizing now with COVID, they can work from home. And why not work from home in a place like this if you can? And then a lot of cottage buyers, though. I mean, cottages, I think I checked the active listings in La Peche the other day, and they were like 14 or 24 listings, like really, really low compared to what they usually would be. And many of them, if not most of them, had conditional offers on them. So I would say that most people are actually looking to relocate. They're looking for a home. And then there are those who are looking for cottages. And rentals are tough. I get clients, coming to me for rentals out of the blue, looking for rentals. In the city, you get listings that are placed on the Centris system. In the country, it's word of mouth. So, if there are a few people around who are property managers, and usually I just refer them to those people. And yet inventory is very low. You kind of have to know someone who. There are certain people in the area who know everybody, and those are the people to go to ask, do you know anybody? But it's really tough to find rentals, more than anything, yeah.
And are you seeing bidding wars that are happening?
Oh yeah. Most properties that are selling now are selling in multiple offers. So whether your strategy is to list at a very competitive price to create that auction effect that's going to result in competing buyer interest and will likely drive the price up, kind of like in an auction. The price starts low, everyone in the room goes, that's a good deal, and then the fact that they're competing for it drives the price up. A lot of people are listing much, much higher. You can't really lose if you're a seller in this market. And if you list it too competitively, then it becomes crazy. A recent house that we sold in Elmer, we thought we were listing it at a relatively high listing price. In 3.5 days, we had 90 showings, and we got 25 offers, and it sold $100,000 above asking. And so it's crazy. And in La Peche, the homes that I sold recently, one in Bishop's Manor, one in Wakefield, one just around here, and they're all multiple offers. So it's whether it's 3 offers or whether it's 10 offers. Cottages are the same thing, and it's all last minute. So sometimes you have to do a showing, and then you're told from the other realtor, I'm expecting 2 other offers maybe, and then by the time you get to the submission deadline, there are 8 or 10 offers, and so usually buyers are enhancing their offers last minute. So it's tough. It's tough to be a buyer out there. So we have a team. We're 6 now on our team, and our top buyer specialist, Carl, he's got a roster of about 120 buyers who have not yet found their place. This is for the entire Quebec Outaouais, but yeah, it's like there are hundreds of buyers who are just waiting for the right spot, and most of our buyers who are winning properties have already lost out on 3, 4, 5 bids, and so sometimes they have to look at a lower price range because a $350 home is going to sell more like $400 or above, and so the strategy has changed for people looking now. Yeah.
And pre-COVID, was this normal practice, or did houses sit on the market here in La Peche for a little while?
Oh, in La Peche, historically, houses would sit for a while. The choice places in the village, those generally would sell quickly. Yet they're very good homes at good prices could be easily a couple or a few months on the market, just because it was a bit more. It's always a bit more of a buyer's market in the country. So even if in the past several years, markets like Hull and Elmer have been very hot. Chelsea's always been pretty hot, and just La Peche, it's kind of the further out you go, properties take a little bit longer to sell. Not the case these days, so it's very different, very different.
And what about land? When, I was told that there's now bidding wars on land.
Oh yeah, yeah. There's a strong increase in demand for raw land because there are fewer homes available. So buyers who were thinking they were going to buy a house are now thinking maybe we should build one because there aren't any available. So land is going at a much higher value, and they're selling much more quickly. Usually, land would take a long time to sell. In the past, 5 years or so, you could have lots that were great building lots that were well priced that would sit on the market for 6 months, 8 months, a year, depending. And it's weird because sometimes in real estate, especially not during COVID, but before, you could have properties that would sit on the market for no apparent reason for a few months, and then suddenly, out of nowhere, 3 buyers show up at the same time, and they all want it. So that can happen. But raw land is at a premium. If you look at raw land, I mean, there's no waterfront available in Chelsea, for instance. But even if one became available, a lot on the water would be like $1 million, and roughly. And in Wakefield, similarly, values are really high for land. It used to be past few years around Wakefield, around La Peche, like not too far from Wakefield, you could get a really good waterfront lot for, 80, 90, 100,000. And now it's just not the case. Now the prices are way higher.
You can barely buy a country lot for that now.
I know. Yeah, it's true. Yeah. So.
And who are your clients? So you said Carl has a roster of 120, say, clients that are buyers that are actively looking. Mm-hmm. Are they from all over, or mostly from the city, mostly people from this area? Mainly
from the Outaouais, just because it's the closest, high population area. We have people from Gatineau moving to the country. Most of our buyers, I would say, probably are from Ottawa. At the same time, I would say at least a quarter of our buyers are moving internally. So La Peche to La Peche, Chelsea to Chelsea. You get those people who are just either they're downsizing or they're upsizing. Their family's grown. They've maybe had a promotion at work, or they're at the point where they're empty nesters and people they want a smaller place, too much maintenance. So this is a great market for downsizers because they'll get a premium on their higher value home, and they'll have to pay a premium on the other place they're going to, yet because it's a lower value, they'll come out winners in the end. But Ottawa, we get so many referrals from realtors from all the agencies in Ottawa, just through personal relationships and connections. So our business is very much a referral and relationship-based business. So all of our buyer specialists, my mandate is more on the listing side, so I work more with the sellers to list properties, to create inventory for the team and for the market, to serve sellers, and then our team of buyer specialists handle all the buyers. And a lot of the buyers will come through our listings. So when we get a listing, you might get a buyer saying, "Can I see the property?" And then either they don't win the property or it's not quite what they were looking for. And then they'll work with one of our buyer specialists to try and find a place that makes sense for them.
And so do you have any advice to people, especially buyers or renters?
Yeah, hang tight. Just don't quit. I think that over the next couple of years, the market's going to even out because typically, economy follows reality and the real estate market follows the economy. And I think we haven't yet quite seen what the economic fallout's going to be from COVID. And I think that a lot of people are paying a lot of money for homes right now. Who knows what's going to happen down the road, depending on people's job situations. I think there's a chance that more people are going to be needing to sell for financial reasons. Also, they're going to be more comfortable selling because there's less risk health-wise. So there should be an increase in inventory, and eventually the buyers will be finding their places. But the other thing is, it's a really good idea to have a pre-approval letter. So if you have working with a buyer specialist or a mortgage specialist or with a mortgage broker, on our team, Michelle is our mortgage broker, and so when we have buyers coming in, if they don't already have someone helping them, Michelle can help them get a pre-approval letter. And if you find yourself in a competing offer situation and the offers are similar, and yet one buyer has a pre-approval letter and one doesn't, the buyer with a pre-approval letter will win the property. it's also just a good idea to know what you can afford. And I think, as difficult as it might be, sometimes it's worth looking in a bit of a lower price range than what people often shop at their max price range. It's often the question is, what's your max range? And they often are looking in that range. And in this market, if you're looking in that range, you're likely not going to get those places. So it's a good idea to look about 50,000 lower than what your max price range is, and just stick with it. You have to act quickly. Most offers these days are going without inspections, so that's a new thing. A couple of years ago, everyone had inspections. It's rare. Sometimes people would forgo an inspection, maybe if they were handy or if they knew someone or if they'd had another way to vet the property. Yet, in this market, you can't win a house generally with a condition of sale if you have to sell a house. So the strategy in this market is sell your house now and yet set a far possession date. So we just sold a house with a possession date of November 1st. So you sell the house now, and then you have several, maybe 4, 6, 8 months to look for your place. And you can make the most of what the market's offering now in terms of optimizing the sale of your own home. And then you have time to look for your other home. Because you can't win a home if you have a condition of sale, and you typically have trouble winning a home if you have an inspection and that kind of thing. At the same time, I'm not in the business of discouraging inspections. We always encourage them because it's part of the due diligence process. So we always recommend inspections, yet the reality is that usually it's the buyers who say, I just want to win, and they forego the inspection. And typically that's what you need to do to win. So it's not what I'm advising.
No.
I'm advising to get the inspections.
Yeah, absolutely. It is, but it would probably be a very emotional time to be a buyer at this time.
Up and down. It's up. Yeah, you really have to keep an even keel, because you might make an offer 60,000 over the asking price, and you still have a 50-50 chance only of getting it.
Wow.
Yeah. You may have to go a bit further out if you're looking for a place in terms of affordability. Having said that, the further you go, the less homes there are available typically, because there's less population. Yeah, it's tough to find a living. I don't know what kind of long-term solutions there could be in terms of the municipality, or maybe some private initiatives to get affordable housing into the area. That would be amazing. I think when I'm talking to clients who are thinking about selling, what I'm saying is, if your goal is, you want to get the most return on your investment on your home, because the home it's your main asset. At the same time, it's your life, right? So it involves a financial side, and then it involves a side that transcends money, because you can't put a price on family experience, memories, life. If you've had kids and they've moved out, and you're, like my parents, like you're empty nesters, you still have trouble, I think, letting go of that property. So it depends what your goals are. I always ask specific questions on client needs, depending on what they need. If they want to get the most for their home, get the highest price, then I ask them, do you have a plan B? Because this is the market. I think this year is a very, very much a sweet spot in the market. So you can probably get more for your home than you might in a different market. So if you want to get the most for your house, do you have a plan B? Do you have somewhere you can go? Either stay with family until you find something. Some people have a cottage, so they sell and they live at their cottage. Some people have a condo in town, so they sell and they live in, or they rent an apartment in town for a while they're looking. So you can get your price, your capital right now. You get your top dollar for your home, then you're set. Then you have a long possession, so either you're staying in your home while you're looking, or you have somewhere to go, and you've optimized, the product that you're selling. So it depends on people's needs. We always sort of have specific questions, whether they're buyers or sellers. What do they want, and we go from there.
You grew up in this area, and now that you see, or maybe you haven't quite seen the struggles that people are having, but does it worry you for the community where people are having a struggle in staying here?
Yeah, I think if people are having trouble staying where they want to live, or relocating to where they want to live, that's definitely hard. Every day we have so many buyers who are, I mean, we have happy stories and sad stories. So we have victories, our buyers winning properties. Sometimes we have buyers who didn't get the house they really wanted and have to keep looking. In terms of the community, I think, one of the great things about Wakefield, I think, is the topography in the village. It's between a ridge and a river, so it limits, the kind of development that we're seeing in Chelsea, which, depending on your opinion, some people like it, some people like it less. I think that this issue is temporary, I think. So it's not going to be like a clear stop and then everything will be fine. Yet I do think that we're over the hump, I believe, because of the vaccine rollouts. There's always going to be continued risk. I have a lot of family members who work in the health sector, so we're not out of the woods yet. But I think we're in an area where there is quite a bit of land around. It's just getting through this jam where you've got just so many buyers and so few sellers. I think once people get vaccinated and people are more comfortable, I think you're going to see a significant increase in inventory. And I think that'll make it easier, and that's going to hopefully relieve pressure on the whole thing. I don't like hearing about people who can't find a place to live, because that must be tough. And, we've all had struggles with COVID. Everyone, their family reality, the routine, the rut, the restrictions, and yet if we have food and we have roofs over our heads, then we're doing a lot better than a lot of people are. So I am concerned, yet I do think it's going to get better.
I like this.
Yeah.
Well, again, Paul, thanks so much for having me and sharing your perspective.
My pleasure. It's great to have you. Thanks.